Who do you think benefits the most from this trade?
For me, it's got to be Kawhi Leonard, and that's because he's already aiming towards that 2019 free agency pool, and what better way to build up your stock than in a weakened LeBron-less Eastern Conference? And of course, you got to look at the Raptors because they're a top 3 team in that conference, and you look at the guys they have there. They have an all-star in Lowry. They re-signed Fred VanVleet, so they're built to compete. They can fight for a #1 seed, maybe even a finals berth, and then once that's all done, Kawhi can decide where he wants to go, sign in free agency, presumably with the Los Angeles Lakers. But now looking on the Spurs side, yes, they have Manu Ginobili still, LaMarcus Aldridge. But in that Western Conference you mentioned, they do have the Nuggets. They have some of that youth there, the Utah Jazz, that really could prevent them from even getting into a 7-8 seed. But do you really think the Sixers can compete, even though they kind of missed out on this free agency? They had the ability to go out and get a LeBron James, to go out and trade for a Kawhi Leonard. Ultimately, the best guy they really picked up was Wilson Chandler for scraps, just so the Nuggets didn't have to pay some extra luxury tax. So they didn't go out and get yes, they did bring back J.J. Redick, but bringing back Amir Johnson, letting Marco Bellinelli go, as well as Ersan Ilyasova, how does that really square up for the Sixers? So you mentioned Houston Rockets. I think the one place he'd fit best with would probably be Golden State. I heard there were rumors that there was some mutual interest between the two. So honestly, they lost Nick Young unless for whatever reason he decides to resign because he's still a free agent. He's on the market. But Jamal Crawford, that'd be an interesting veteran pickup for the Warriors. I think one of the other things you have to consider, he's a ball handler. He's a guy who can create his own shot. And we saw that in the Game 3 of the finals. He was able to take some dribbles, drive to the basket, and score, which is something a lot of players on that Cleveland roster who are still on the roster were not able to do. Now, Colin Sexton, who is now the rookie for Cleveland, might be able to do that, but Cleveland could really use some guys who can create their own shot rather than having to be spoon-fed the ball. Rodney Hood probably going to end up signing a qualifying offer, just a 1-year, $5 million deal, and stick along with Kevin Love and J.R. Smith and stick with what Cleveland's trying to do right now because they're not trying to rebuild. They're still trying to kind of contend in this really open Eastern Conference. And if they bring back Rodney Hood, a bit of that finals experience, that could really help them get an 8, 7, maybe even a 6 seed. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, he was a starting shooting guard for them last year, and honestly, it's his position to lose, and I think Josh Hart, he better serves as a role coming off of the bench as a good, strong second unit, and remember, we don't even know who's going to be starting at point guard for this Los Angeles Lakers team. It could be Rajon Rondo, thus pushing Lonzo Ball to the second unit, and if you have a second unit led by Lonzo Ball and Josh Hart, that's a really favorable matchup against any Western Conference opponent. Best attribute overall has got to be his shot blocking ability, and that's a result of his 7'4" wingspan. He actually had 4 blocks per game throughout the entire Summer League season and was tied for the most blocks per game in Summer League history, and the Knicks must really like what they see, especially for the fact that they've already signed him to a multi-year deal. But the one most puzzling move that I saw from this offseason for the Rockets has got to be the signing of Michael Carter-Williams. When you think about a Rockets offense, you think about 2 primary things, and that's 3-point shooting and ISO play for their wings. Michael Carter-Williams really doesn't fit either of those things. He's got a career 3-point percentage of just 25%, and alongside 6th man of the year Eric Gordon, obviously the Rockets are going to be looking for depth at the wing position. Chris Paul and James Harden both missed significant time over the past season, including that crucial hamstring injury that potentially cost the Rockets the entire title. But overall, I just don't understand this Michael Carter-Williams signing. He doesn't necessarily fit D'Antoni's scheme.
What was the most questionable move that a team made this offseason?
For me, it would have to be the moves that the Pelicans made this offseason because you had 2 veterans on that team who really lifted up that roster, and that was Rajon Rondo, who became a very good mentor at the point guard position, and also, of course, Boogie Cousins, who left famously for the Golden State Warriors. And instead, they bring in guys Julius Randle, and then you bring in Elfrid Payton, the hometown guy who played at UL Lafayette. And while, yes, these are 2 very bright young players, they don't necessarily make the team better. They have big shoes to fill, and in a very strong Western Conference that just added LeBron James to the LA Lakers, I don't see this Pelicans team getting even a low seed in the West for the playoffs.